For more news from a Catholic perspective, visit EWTNnews.com. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie starts now.
Hi there, it's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Should say Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you, because you're the one who drives the program, as we say. It is at least a three-person conversation, Debbie, myself, and you. And so we invite you to call us today. We're going to present a topic to you, as we most of the time do. Once a month, we have our Unscripted, where we don't have a topic for you to weigh in on. You can call in about anything you want. But Debbie, happy Monday to you. I hope you and Marty had a good weekend.
Yeah, it was busy, but we're good. How about you?
Yeah, not terribly busy.
Oh,
got to have one eyeball on some football games, while I was doing other things. I don't sit down and watch whole games anymore. It's just, I don't know, with so much going on in the world and the way society and culture have changed. It just changes your priorities over time, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, there's a lot going on in the news, and this is our In the News show. And what we mean by that is we want for you to bring up things that maybe have slipped, under the radar, that the mainstream media didn't pick up. They're not giving it any time, not highlighting it. Maybe it's in your local area, your regional area, your state level, whatever, around where you live. But you want to bring it to the attention of the Take Two family. Why? Because we need to hear about it, to be aware, and to also pray. And maybe, do some things that can really help. Like you said, Jerry, about, the culture. It's interesting because right now the culture is kind of, driving so many of the things that we look at and we do and we have to be a part of. It's hard to resist or do anything. Well, but not when you're talking from a spiritual sense. When we're talking about our faith life, Jerry, I think we have to look at it from a different angle, a different way. Wouldn't you say? Because we don't have to be, we don't have to let the culture drive what we do as Christians. We really need to step up and be, authentic Christians and go out there and really be Christ in the world in a real way, I think.
Well, yeah, and you're talking about how culture often dictates, what we do and in many ways what we think, and certainly how we communicate. There's a lot of, there's all these wars going on right now in big tech with, Apple and Google shutting down Parler and taking the president off of Twitter and all of that stuff. So we could chat about some of that stuff. If you think that, that kind of thing should be able to be done, or is that just really a violation of our rights? 833-288-3986. But also any other news topics that are of interest to you. Like Debbie said, if you feel that you read something and you went, I didn't see that on the nightly news, or I didn't read that, I didn't hear that my neighbor's talking about that. Let us know. Enlighten us about something that you have come across in the news that you think would be of interest to our listeners. 833-288-3986.
And we received a lot of messages over the weekend, to add to our prayer book, everything that happened at the Capitol and the death and people that were injured, all the deaths and people that were injured. And yes, it's all been entered into the prayer book. So everybody's praying rosaries to really heal this country. And it's interesting, Jerry. I'm going to bring up something. I don't think I'm going to have enough time to do it right now. Maybe after the break. But I'm going to bring up a commercial that's been circulating. That's really garnered a lot of reviews and. They think it's hilarious, and thousands and thousands of people are writing in saying, this is incredibly funny commercial. It just hits it right home of what we went through in 2020 with the pandemic. And I see it from a whole different angle. I think it's very dangerous, this commercial. So I'll be sharing that after the break, but I'm amazed that there hasn't been more pushback from the Christian, the Christian community, because this is just, I don't know what's happening. I mean, kids are watching and kids are absorbing, and everything we do, our children are like sponges, and they're just soaking it in, and it's changing who they are. And I don't, sometimes I feel like we don't give that enough credit, that kids are really watching. They have eyes and ears, and they're always watching and listening.
Well, yeah, and as we're talking about things that have grabbed your attention in the news, maybe you have some thoughts about how you consume media or consume news in your home. Do you even watch it at all? What do you do to kind of safeguard your kids from these things that Debbie is talking about? But we're talking about things that are in the news, and boy, oh boy, there is plenty to talk about. So what is it that you would like to bring up and raise with our listeners here on Take Two today? It's 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. And one thing that caught my eye was kind of sad. Actually, there have been several, here I'm going back to sports again, but there have been several individuals pass away recently. Casey Jones, longtime with the Celtics, I believe. Paul Westphal, who had coached the Phoenix Suns and played in the NBA.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize he passed.
Yeah,
okay.
and somebody that you'll remember very well, Debbie, Tommy Lasorda passed away.
Mm-hmm. Was
Tommy
it 90,
Lasorda passed
93?
away. 93, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, I do pay a little bit of attention to the news, and those are some of the things that caught my eye. I mentioned Tommy Lasorda in particular because my former apostle at Vocation Boom had a fundraising dinner, and he was our keynote speaker. So, what a funny guy, great man, husband, great for the game of baseball. So,
yeah, I remember that very well. Wow. So there's a lot to share in the news here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. So if you have something to share with the Take Two family, please do it now by calling 833-288-3986. Or you can text us. You text the letters EWTN to 55000. You can also email us take2@EWTN.com. Or better yet, if you're watching the video stream, we're waving to you on Facebook or YouTube. Just go ahead and leave a comment, and Jeff Burson will happily pull those and give those to us. But it's in the news, so anything that you want to talk about that we should be aware of, now's the time to call in. Very important that you call in now. Don't wait till the end of the show. We're not going to get to you.
Yeah, we always hate when the end of the show comes and there are still people who have taken the time, cared enough to call in, and we don't get you on the program. So now is the time to call, as Debbie said, and we do have about 2 or 3 other phone lines still open, several being screened by Ryan Penny right now at 833-288-3986. Once a month we do this show. We invite you to do a mental check of some of the news stories that you have seen. Maybe some were shocking to you, maybe some were just rather mundane, but please call in and share them with us here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
A very wonderful woman I knew had 4 children, and all 4 died. And somebody went up to her one day, and they said, "Oh, what a pity." And she said, "Oh, no, what a blessing." If we don't begin to look at everything with the eyes of Jesus, you will become helpless and hopeless.
For more information on Mother Angelica, visit Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
The EWTN home video highlight for January is A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing 2, The Gender Agenda.
For 2 centuries, the ideologues of socialism or communism have used deceptive word jugglery to rebrand themselves as liberals or progressives.
Order your DVD at EWTNRC.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Or call 1-800-854-6316.
He is only one of 4 popes honored as the Great.
Matthew Bunsen and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Leo I was pope at a time when Roman civilization was being overrun by barbarian armies. He stood as a light in the darkness and even saved the city of Rome from destruction by Attila and the Huns. Leo died in 461.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Well, it's only right that you should tune in to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie because it's your show. We have our show team in place, Michael Birchfield, our producer, Jeff Burson on social media, Ryan Penny, I believe, is answering your calls at 833-288-3986. And we talk a lot about the EWTN Religious Catalog and some of the beautiful, beautiful items of faith and spirituality that they have. And I want to just quickly bring your attention to a red glass bead nativity rosary. It's made from cut red glass beads with Aurora Borealis and has a beautiful picture medal of the Nativity for the centerpiece. And the angel that's pictured above the Blessed Virgin and Child is the seventh angel in the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, which was uncovered on the wall during the restorations of 2016. This is available now at EWTN RC. Free shipping on orders of $75 or more. Check it out and all of the other items at EWTNRC.com.
Okay, we have one open phone line. So if you have something to share that's in the news that you would like to bring to our attention, now's the time to call in 1-833-288-3986. Please pick up that last phone line there, and we'll have a wonderful discussion. Okay, so Jerry, before the break, I shared a little bit about this commercial that's been really bothering me. So let me give you, have you seen it? You know what I'm talking about, Match.com?
I haven't seen it, no.
Okay, Match.com has a new, I believe it came out in November, December, a new commercial of a gal meeting a date, right? And the girl is 2020, the year 2020, and she meets up with Satan. And Satan is her, really, they really romanticized it. I mean, in a way that was just, it's so disgusting because they made him out to be Satan. They made the devil out to be, friendly and happy and, a wonderful match date. And, so they were talking about how 2020 is from hell and Satan is from hell. And they have these different scenes where they're on dates and she tries to bring him into a church and he pulls her back and they're exercising together and they're eating together and it's so beautiful and it's just a match. And then they go, a match made in hell instead of match made in heaven. And it's Match.com. And, this glamorizing of the devil, the way they did this, and thousands of comments are coming in on these YouTube, and people are playing it over and over again. They're saying, "Oh, this is hilarious! It's so perfect, because 2020 was from hell." And then, I see how they did this. It's so cool how Match.com did this. Is anybody realizing that little kids are seeing this? These commercials are everywhere. Match.com is everywhere. It's very hard to shield the eyes of a child. These commercials are all the time. And I just this romanticizing of the devil, I'm appalled. And I just don't understand why people aren't, I don't get it. I just wish some Christian group or the Catholic Church or somebody would come out and say, this is not appropriate at all, and it needs to leave the television waves. I don't know. Anyway, is that the first time you've heard about it?
Yeah, it is, and hopefully, Dr. Bill Donahue of the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights will. I'm sure he's going to catch wind of it and probably have something to say about that. Although, all that can be said, all the quote unquote protests and pushbacks and all of this. I don't know how effective they are anymore just because of, like you said, thousands and thousands of people have backed that with their positive comments. And, you put one out there that might be more conservative and faith-based and so forth. And, you're just basically crushed under the weight of all the other people nowadays.
Right.
Yeah.
But to glorify glorify the devil and make it a good match. And when people are trying to look for a soulmate, is that the soulmate you want?
No.
This is really sick. I don't know. I just think we need to. Yeah, I don't know who to call or who to write to, but I'll tell you what. Maybe after the show, I'll try to explore it because it's sick in my opinion. There's an open phone line 833-288-3986. It's in the news show, and we want to hear what news story you want to bring to the table. Okay, I'm ready with my notebook, Jerry.
All right, first up is Rose in Long Island, New York, listening on the EWTN app, and a first-time caller to Take Two. Hi, Rose.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Doing well. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Holding up.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is my first time, as you know, and it's very, I'm very nervous. But besides that horrific commercial you're talking about, there's also the TikTok, the, if I say it correctly, GIF, these other, like videos that people put together that's supposed to be funny, and it's all over Instagram, Snapchat. It's getting like more and more disturbing. I have a 20-year-old and a 22-year-old. They know really not to bring it up to my attention because they'll hear it from me and they just see it in, with, the expression on my face. But it is really getting out of hand, like completely getting out of hand with how lost this world is, I even saw it on Facebook, and,
Mm-hmm. Well, Rose, this is my take on it real quickly, and I want to hear what Jerry has to say about this. But this is my take on it, going back to that commercial and then what you're talking about, social media posts and videos that are out there circulating. Everybody's making fun of, in a way, if you look at it, it's like making fun of God and God's laws and God's commands. And it's a way of mocking the Lord. That's the way I see it. When I look at something that is so disrespectful to women or to men or to our quest for holiness, okay? When everybody's mocking it and they think it's funny and it becomes something that is humorous and that's all in it's all light. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's mocking God. Because we're taking the sacredness of what God has given to us, and we should be cherishing it, and we should be preserving it, and we should be spreading it. Instead, we're mocking it in all ways. When you look at something, go ahead, Rose.
I'm sorry. Not only that, but I feel like it's pulling people away from our religion, where they're trying to convince others it's okay. It's like a fight, a good against evil. And that's how I'm interpreting it, where they're trying to say, yeah, it's okay to accept it. It's the quote-unquote new norm. But really, the quote-unquote new norm, I feel like we're in a war, the good against bad. And all this is not only just disrespecting, God, and, but I feel like it's pulling people away from God, especially our young ones that they're so moldable right now. That's our next generation. That in itself scares me.
Mm-hmm. I think it should scare all of us, Rose. Let's be real honest about this. So many people, adults included, but definitely our younger generations, young adults, teens, even preteens, sadly, in some instances, they do not know what they would do without social media. Right. I mean, if we were all of a sudden en masse to take all social media away from them, I'm frightened to think of what they might do, because, I think we're all of an age probably when, you had friends who would actually come over to your house and you would go out in the yard and beat each other up and build tree forts and play football and go out catching frogs and stuff like that. And now, of course, we can't necessarily get together face to face, but this isn't a new phenomenon. This has been going on since well before the pandemic. So, I just pray hard for young people that they learn, and for parents too, to have the wisdom to know how much is enough, how much is too much when it comes to them, being constantly on their phones and on social media.
Right. You're hilarious. Did you actually say when you were kids, we used to go outside and beat each other up?
Yeah.
You mean like wrestle?
I was like, no, not me.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, we had this football game. We had this football game that we would play. It's everybody against everybody. Whoever has the ball, everybody else tackles him. Okay, we called it tackle the guy.
That's not
so
fun.
We would throw the ball down and we had to get to the other end and try and score. So you could call it. It was a fun kind of beating each other up.
Yeah, Michael Birchfield said he's never going to your house. Go ahead, Rose.
Yeah, my mother would never allow that in her house.
Oh, it was outside. Yeah, it was outside.
That's hilarious. It's a boy thing. It's a guy thing. I love it. But it is true. These kids are attached to their gadgets, and that's their way of life. That's what they know, and it's unfortunate. And so they are being influenced heavily on what they, because here's the thing, Rose, and Jerry, tell me this real quickly before we move on, because Rose brings up a good point. When you put images in your head, even if you reject them, even if you know they're wrong, they're still there. You've seen them. So when something comes up in your life, if you're having a weak moment or something, those images may flash in front of you. That's what I'm saying. This is dangerous stuff that we're dealing with. And we think it's innocent, gadgets that we give our kids at 10 and 11 years old, which I don't know why 10 and 11-year-olds need that. But I think it can be very dangerous. I know it's helpful. I know they need it for school. I know people use it for work. I know how, the good part of it. I have always said I think social media and all this stuff is the devil's playground. That's just my thought. I'm sticking to it. What do you think, Rose?
Well, I worked in a school district doing tech support for a few years. And I not only did tech support, I also ran a computer lab. And it was in elementary, and I did, I think, 6 months in a middle school. So the technology in itself, it depends, because there are a lot of good educational tools out there. However, you got to limit the kids, because I feel like the old school learning is being thrown out, out the window. It's good to open a book once in a while, or it should be done daily instead of constantly on the computer. But the technology alone, there's so much filtering you can do. They'll still somehow go around it and continue seeing it. I've seen it, hands-on, where bring your own device to school. Kids will bring in their device, and if the Wi-Fi is not, it's not structured where there is a restriction put on it, kids will be seeing things that they shouldn't be seeing, or instead of connecting to the Wi-Fi, use cellular data and be able to, if we experienced it, share with other students inappropriate stuff. And to me, it's scary because, they're exposing, and I hate to use it this way, the young minds are being raped. That's the way I look at it. And they're not growing up the way we grew up, where we grew up very innocent until, later on years where you get exposed to things. Now, even in elementary level, kindergarten, they're still getting exposed now to inappropriate stuff, and I don't know, I just feel like it's a lost world. Yeah.
Well, you used a phrase there, Rose, that I don't think is far off from reality. I mean, our young people especially are being intellectually violated severely. Violence, I would even say violence is being done to their intellects, to their wills, to their very souls. And that's not just young people. How many times, Debbie, have you and I been traveling and we would see a family out at dinner when we were finish up a pledge drive day, mom, dad, and 4 kids, and every one of them has their head buried in a gadget, no social interaction going on between any of them. So
we used to see it all the time. Rose, you don't sound nervous anymore, and now you're not a first-time caller anymore either. So call anytime, and we just enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day in Long Island, New York.
You too. God bless you guys. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome, Rose. Thank you for the call. Well, we got several others, Jay, Deacon Quinn, Debbie, and others. Jay was up next in order in which they called, so we'll go to Jay in Pueblo, Colorado, listening on Catholic Radio Network. Hi, Jay. We got a break in a couple minutes, but we can get started with you first and then maybe carry you over through the break. Go for it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Very well.
Okay, I have a question. I want to keep this thing smooth and clean and Christian-like. But I heard through the great ground there's a group called Secular Democrats for America, and 3 congressmen, Jerry McElhaney of California, and Jerry Ruskin of Maryland, and Jerry Huffman of California, have submitted a proposal to the new administration, supposedly they're proposing to abolish all public Christian worship. And not knowing too much about it, I thought maybe I'd throw it on y'all's lap since you guys are newscasters and investigators. And that's kind of what I have.
Well, I don't know how much we're investigators, my friend, but I think I found their website here. It says, we are a network of Democrats advocating for inclusion of non-religious Americans and mobilizing to protect our secular democracy. This next line kind of puzzles me a little bit. It says, we organize to protect religious freedom and defend and then they say defend the constitutional separation of religion and government. I don't know that there is a constitutional connection between religion and government, but it says right there on their website that they organize to protect religious freedom. So, Debbie, I've not heard of this organization before.
I've never heard of it.
Have. Yeah.
No, I've never heard of it, Jay, but it interests me. After the show, I'm going to look into it because, I mean, does it say what their main objective is? It says, well, that sounds like a mission statement.
I got it kind of through the word of mouth, and I thought, well, heck, I'll call maybe some experts that can help me with this because, Christians, we have to say the truth and not say the truth. But he gave me some names and where they're from, and I thought, well, gotta call them in and see what y'all had to say about it.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what, if you want to keep listening to the program today and in the coming days, Jay, if we find out anything, we can pass that along to you. Thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Father Mitch Pacwa.
Sin does not unite people, doesn't bring them together. Sin causes division and divides people up.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Hi, Take Two family. Jerry and I are so excited about the launch of Stand Tall, our new ministry designed just for you. Please visit standtalltoday.com and take a look at all the resources, devotionals, and services we have provided to assist you on your spiritual journey. Feeling stuck? Or maybe you feel like you're moving backwards? Let us help you take another look at life and make great strides toward being the person both you and God want you to be. Learn more at standtalltoday.com.
Hi, this is an EWTN bookmark brief. I'm Doug Keck. Just had the pleasure of speaking with Paul Kengor and Robert Orlando about the book, The Divine Plan. Paul, tell us about this book and why you put it together.
Well, Doug, it's a companion book to a film documentary by the same name, done by Robert Orlando, who's just an excellent, really talented filmmaker. Here you have these two individuals, Ronald Reagan and Pope John Paul II, who, among all things, were both actors. And here were these two men in the 1980s who ascended on this ultimate global stage as they engaged in this dramatic attempt to try to peacefully win the Cold War.
Very good. The Divine Plan, John Paul II, Ronald Reagan, and the dramatic end of the Cold War, along with the documentary, both available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. Thank you, Paul Kengor, for joining us here on this bookmark brief. Look for the entire interview coming on the network and on demand. Thanks.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. We've got an all-star lineup later today on Catholic Answers Live. Father Mike Schmitz and Scott Hahn. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
This is our In the News show here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And we sure do appreciate Jay from Pueblo, Colorado, who said that we are somewhat of experts. We don't consider ourselves experts, but thank you, Jay. If you think so, we are truly humbled by those nice compliments. But we are definitely going to check into that website after the show when we have more time to go through and see exactly what is at the root of it, and find out if it's something that we should definitely be aware of and see if it gains some momentum. But there are a couple open phone lines if you'd like to join in at 833-288-3986 and share what's on your mind with something in the news. And Deacon Quinn is up next in Singer Island, Florida, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Deacon. Thank you so much for waiting and welcome.
Thank you very much, Debbie and Jerry. I just wanted to congratulate all female Catholics who participate as acolytes and lectors, where it was in the news, Vatican News this morning, that the Pope issued a motu proprio. He decreed, in effect, institutionalize these ministries for women in the church. They've been practicing them since 1972, but now it's all official. And, they say that 80% of the population that goes to Mass each weekend is female. So it's appropriate that women get close to the altar.
Deacon, let me ask you a question. What happens now with the Pope issuing this? What happens to those parishes or dioceses that they don't foster that? They don't allow that. Do they automatically have to adhere to this, or how does that work?
I don't know what the local ordinary has to say about that, but it really doesn't matter what I think or you think. It only matters what the Pope thinks. If we believe in obedience and, just not committing that original sin all over again with pride.
Interesting. Yeah, because I'm curious, because I know one diocese that doesn't, they don't allow female, acolytes, but they do.
A shame.
Yeah, they do have lectors, but they don't allow. Yeah, so that's interesting. Do you what is it like in California, Jerry? Do you have female lectors and acolytes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think almost universally.
Yeah.
I think one of the troubles here, one of the difficulties is that lector and acolyte for a long time were considered to be what they were called minor orders, and they were. And Deacon, you could probably speak a lot more eloquently to this than I can, but it was certainly it certainly remains part of the process of a man being formed to be a priest, but. According to an article I'm looking at here, it says lector and acolyte are publicly recognized ministries instituted by the church. The roles were once considered minor orders in the church, in the tradition of the church, and were changed to ministries by Pope Paul VI.
Right. So I think what he's doing, and I'm just guessing, but there is supposed to be a commission studying whether or not we should have female deaconesses. In fact, we did have them in the first 400 years of the church. You can look at the Council of Chalcedon in Canon 18, where it says we will no longer ordain women below the age of 40. So we know that they were ordaining women. We can debate on, what their faculties were. Were they the same as a permanent deacon today or a transitional deacon? I don't know. I've never seen anything to the contrary, but you'll hear about that from the more traditionalist people, and I consider myself a traditionalist. I'm a convert in 1989. I love the Catholic Church. I'm director of prison ministry in the Diocese of Palm Beach. I'm on my way to a prison with clothes for guys when they're getting out. There cannot be enough said in what we do to feed, educate, clothe, and house people on the planet. So, but if the church wants to move in the direction of helping women get closer to that altar, whatever the Pope says, I'm behind him 100%.
Well, Deacon, thank you, first of all, for your vocations. I presume you're probably a married man, so thank you for that, and thank you for answering the call to the diaconate as well. And for your help at the prison ministry. I've visited, done a tiny bit of prison ministry in the past, and I know the men and the women just feel so grateful for that. I had heard a little bit differently about the women in the first centuries of the church, that it was not, it wasn't specifically part of the same, ordained ministries as men in terms of like the priesthood or even the diaconate. I thought that the women, they may have been called deaconesses. I'm not sure. And deacon, again, I'm not pushing back on you here. I'm just trying to square kind of recall this in my mind. I've just heard many times said before that it was of a different kind, if you will. They were there to help maybe the women who were being baptized disrobe and things like that. So that's my take on that anyway, and I'm pretty sure that's the church's understanding of it.
Yeah, and I heard the same thing, Deacon, when I was going through classes for my graduate degree in theology. So I think, that's, Yeah, the term ordination, I think, it differed back then. But I'm just curious, Deacon, because the work you do in the prison ministry and everything, do you see this as a good thing that's happening? You said, I think you said that it's you would like to see women around closer to the altar. But do you see this? Do you see any problems with it? I mean, a lot of times when something seems is so right and so good, there's also some underlying problems that can happen. Do you see any of that?
Well, I can see if they become ordained priests, certainly there would be additional problems with that. But I'm just backing the Pope. I think too often, you hear what's being said. The Pope is now approving civil unions between same-sex, but until he changes doctrine of the church, I'm not going to give much weight to those types of comments that I hope never happen in our marriage ceremonies, in our sacrament. But, I just want to congratulate women who do have in their hearts, a desire to serve. And if the Pope says, yes, it's now institutionalized, and I think a bishop that prohibits that in his diocese is just disobeying the Pope, and he should really amend his ways.
Well, Deacon, yeah, I think we would agree with you on the need for there to be real solid opportunities for women to minister in the church according to the church's teachings and dogmas and doctrines and canon law and so forth. Because after all, even in my own family, it was my mother. My parents divorced, but it was my mother who I kind of she held on to us kids by being the one who went to church and taking us to church. And you see it all the time, and you see women doing so many important, beautiful things, and the gifts that they have to offer.
Exactly.
They're complementary to the gifts that the men have to offer. So I think we would certainly agree with you on that, Deacon. Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Deacon, I was in religious education for over 30 years, and the women have a wonderful role there as teachers of the faith to the young minds that come into view. And I think that's wonderful, and they do step up, and the women are very dedicated in religious education. These other areas are interesting because I often when I like to explore different angles of it to see, if problems can arise from constantly, changing and morphing things to kind of fit what's in the culture. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying I like to explore if there's any problems that can be exposed, ahead of time, so that things can be done in the church to, alleviate that or to help the faithful. Because the faithful are the ones that let's face it, they're the ones that it's kind of thrust upon them, and and they have to accept it. And we don't do a lot of catechesis around it to explain why these things are happening. So I would love for that to happen. I think more catechesis would help. What do you think?
Well, I was a DRE myself for 5 years, and the way I recruited people, I would just quote from Pope Paul VI, modern man more willingly listens to witnesses than he does to teachers, and if he does listen to teachers, it's only because they're witnesses. So I could recruit many people to be CCD teachers. Our Catholic population isn't educated well enough. I have a master's too in religious studies, and I feel for these people. I see them come to funerals and they don't know whether to kneel or stand or whatever. So in our homilies, we have to do what we can to catechize them again, encourage them to come back. The most successful parishes are the ones that compel the parents to also attend classes again with their kids, in separate rooms for the children in CCD and put the parents in another class. But that's going to require more participation of the laity who do have master's degrees like yourself to get in there and recatechize and let them learn on an adult level, confirm these kids in junior and senior year instead of eighth grade and not seeing them because they're still too spiritually immature. You know, there are great opportunities and to allow women, I think, to read the scripture will inspire young girls. I think to see a woman going back from the credence table to the altar and you know, doing those types of activities will, again, inspire other young girls and boys, too, hopefully, to become priests, to work with women and respect women who are up there next to the priests and the deacons.
Mm-hmm.
Amen, Deacon Quinn. And if we look back through the history of the church, obviously we point to the Blessed Virgin Mary and her role in salvation history, but how many great great female saints, you know, have there been that have helped to keep the church alive in times of great difficulty and trial and so forth? So, yeah, I think.
Well, okay, so let me just share this real quickly before Deacon leaves. Deacon, real quickly, and Jerry, this came up in a diocese that I was working in, Deacon, and you know, the young boys, they didn't want to sign up to be altar servers if they were going to serve alongside a female because they felt there was a strange chemistry that happened. It didn't work. So that's why what I was getting at is if this is going to be implemented across the board, we're really going to need a lot more catechesis. Okay, because I saw a decrease in altar serving because women were increased. Real quickly, Deacon?
Yeah. Well, if we advocate that a man and a woman should come up to the altar to be married, wouldn't it be nice if they fell in love as kids serving right around that altar 15, 20 years prior? I mean, we can't exclude. We have to be more inclusive, especially if the Pope is, we're institutionalizing this.
Right. Well, thank you so much. We want to thank you for listening to the show and thank you for the work you do as a deacon and as in prison ministry. So awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting Take Two. And we really appreciate it by your call because you've really enhanced this conversation. I think it gives us all food for thought and it's very interesting. Thank you, Deacon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Deacon. Please call again anytime. We are going to get to Debbie on the line in just a moment, but first I want to tell you about the Sunrise Morning Show, which is on at, I believe it's 6 a.m. Eastern Time on most of these same EWTN stations. Tomorrow morning, Ryan Hanning joins Matt and Annie, and he's going to discuss his book, The Habit of Compassion in the Willpower of Advantage. And Elizabeth Scalia also joins the Sunrise Morning Show team to discuss the Capitol riot and also the Rule of St. Benedict. So don't miss the Sunrise Morning Show Monday through Friday weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern Time here on many of these same EWTN stations.
Okay, and we're going to Debbie in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Debbie, thank you so much. Debbie, you got our Virtual Patience Award. Congratulations, Debbie. Welcome.
You're more than welcome. I'm pretty patient. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Great. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Speaking of the New Year, I'd like to talk about a New Year's resolution that maybe some of your listeners would like to adopt, and that would be doing more holy hours of adoration in the new year, especially for our priests and bishops. I feel that they're targeted from every side about every kind of issue, and it's just amazing what pressure they're under.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would like to see more hours of adoration, and that's one of my New Year's resolutions, to bring more hours of adoration back to our churches and expand upon it. To pray for the priests and the bishops who have COVID. Mm-hmm. It really is dismaying that they're being attacked.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely.
With diseases.
Yeah, absolutely. And Satan doesn't like what they're doing. Let's face it. Okay, Satan's going to be attacking, the priests and the deacons and those that are involved in ministry in the church, Debbie, and the bishops. I agree with you completely. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say something real quickly. It is so important for us to pray more for them and surround them in prayer. But I have to say this, Debbie, okay? They need to lead by example. And what I mean by that is they need to be praying as well. I know personally a few priests that don't spend a regular time in adoration and stuff. They need to be doing their spiritual work as well. And it's very important because just because, when somebody becomes ordained, it doesn't mean they're just, free and they're not going to be attacked. They're going to be attacked. Just like we need to protect ourselves with prayer, they need to protect themselves with prayer. What do you think, Debbie? I agree with you 100%, but they need to lead by example with adoration.
We have a new pastor at our church, and he's leading with adoration and putting on more times of adoration. And I'm very, very grateful for his example.
Yeah. See, that's awesome. See, that's perfect. That is perfect. When a priest or a bishop does that, that is perfect because then that spreads to the faithful, and then you have a wonderful, vibrant, spiritual, very good, rooted, catechetically minded community. That is so good, Debbie. Please tell your pastor. Way to go. Jerry?
Well, I just want to...
I will.
Well, before you go, Debbie, I just wanted to use the analogy. How many people do we hear who say, my faith, I still have my faith as an adult because I would come down the stairs early in the morning. There would be my dad, on his knees praying in front of the crucifix, or praying the Liturgy of the Hours, or just praying the Rosary, and that was the example given by that family's father. And what is the church? The church, we are family. That's why we call a priest father, because he does the same things for us in the spiritual realm that our biological fathers do or are supposed to do for us in the physical biological realm. So it only makes sense that the more we see our priests out front leading the way, leading by example, that is going to inspire us to come along. But it's not an either or. I mean, we definitely need to be praying for them, especially with the heat of the world, just increasing so much. Our priests and bishops and deacons and those who are leaders in the church are going to really come under the gun even more. So, yeah, our prayers are desperately needed for them.
Absolutely. And perpetual adoration. Please, if there's any deacons or priests, pastors listening right now, perpetual adoration or some form of it, or expand the hours of adoration. It's only going to bless your parish. It's only going to bless the community. It is so powerful. I worked years with perpetual adoration, and I saw the fruits of it. And you know what I saw? Most often, Debbie and Jerry, I used to see in our beautiful chapel on our church campus, I used to see our Bishop Thomas Olmsted there praying in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and it was so. You talk about moving, it was amazing. I mean, you couldn't help but you could see he wanted to be there. He loved being there, and it made you it made us, all of us as the faithful, we just flocked to the chapel because of that, because we saw that on a regular basis. So it's beautiful when our priests and bishops step up. It's absolutely beautiful, right, Debbie?
I believe so. Mm-hmm. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, Debbie. Have a happy New Year, a blessed year 2021 to you. Yeah, and before we go to Jennifer, along the lines of what you were saying, Debbie, sometimes sometimes our clergy might think, well, I don't want to go there just to be seen. People will think I'm trying to be prideful, or if I'm there in the adoration chapel, they'll think, oh, Father, look, he just wants to be seen. No, I can't imagine a single priest would want to do that. And actually, I would believe on the converse. Mm-hmm. I would say a priest should want to be seen in the chapel, not because, hey, folks, look at me, I'm a prayer warrior, but because, hey, folks, look at me, I need this too. Mm-hmm. I encourage you to do this. Right. Look, I need this too. So,
for 5 years, I worked for the late Father Doug Lorig. He passed away, and he was amazing. He did some appearances on EWTN television for some different documentaries, and it was hilarious, Jerry. It was hilarious. When the staff needed to find him, we would check his office, and then if he wasn't there, we would check the chapel, because that's where he was. And it was so beautiful. and it inspired all of us. So I have a lot to say about that. I really am a strong believer of it. Jennifer is in Atlanta, Georgia, listening on The Quest and is a first-time caller. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hey, Debbie and Jerry. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
I wanted to make a comment about what the deacon was talking about. So going back to the previous subject about the women serving, which I think is fine. But I wanted to address your question is, does it bring up a challenge? I was going to give a semi-personal testimony. My husband grew up in a small town and did a lot of the serving in his town for daily things like funerals and weddings. And he was the kid who got called on, he and his best friend, in their small town to do those things. So he was at the altar a lot more than just on Sunday. And his best friend ended up becoming a deacon. He's a very faithful man. And my husband is a very faithful man in the church. And I think that is those times as a young boy, a young man serving at the altar that kept him, that's brought him today to be a very faithful person through most of his life. And so I think we need those young boys to be serving, especially having a priest shortage. So that's my point number 2 in this, is that with a priest shortage, we really need those boys, young men, even older men, who are husbands and fathers, to be serving and being near the Lord and giving us that example of how that works, and especially for the youth to be formed on the altar there and to be called, have that opportunity.
Right, Jennifer, beautiful comments. And the young men in particular, well, young men and women should be surrounded and soaked in the faith as much as possible by their parents, by their parishes, and so forth. Why? Because they have yet to discover their vocation in life. And Debbie, I think you mentioned it earlier in the show, young men who serve at the altar could see, get this perception of this priest as being somebody, I would like to do what he does, for a living. And he may not understand it as a vocation yet. He might think to himself, I want a job like that. But that to me is one of the most important things, and it always has been, is to get especially young boys around the altar to see what happens during the Mass. But there has to also, Debbie, has to be a priest or priests who, aside from outside of the Mass, just explain to these boys what's going on. And then when I do this, this is what's happening. When I do that, this is what's happening. And just get their sense of awe and majesty. And that doesn't exclude, having the girls get those same senses either. But,
Well, and yeah, I agree. And I think having a very, very vibrant altar serving program is essential. Sometimes it's almost forgotten at the parishes. I know at the parishes I worked at, they put quite a bit of time, and they actually put a priest in charge of it, which was great, to recruit the young men and to have them serve on a regular basis. And it's very important. I think we devote time. That's what I'm afraid of, that a lot of ministries are going to go by the wayside because of this COVID and because of the shortages, and the problems with parishes not being able to, meet their budgets and everything. It's going to be tough. So, Jennifer, I agree with you. A vibrant, healthy ministry, for young men, I think is essential to leading on to wonderful, dedicated vocations. I agree, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, thank you. And we love the Quest. Tell the folks at the Quest we love them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. God bless you. We got an email from Daryl. He wanted to know what was the art object. Actually, it was a rosary that I mentioned on the program nearly after the first segment. And I will post a link to that on take2show.com. Daryl, you were wondering about that because, if you go to EWTN Religious Catalog, there's so much good stuff. You may not find it right off the bat. So I'll post this very article on take2show.com a little bit later today.
Awesome. And we're getting a lot of comments on that appalling commercial, the Match commercial. So thanks, you guys, for sticking with me on that one. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about if you've had to end a friendship. That can be very hard to do, very painful. If you've had to end a friendship, tomorrow's show, you definitely want to tune in. Right, Jerry?
Absolutely. Until then, we thank the show team, we thank the affiliates, and we thank you, the Take Two family. Have a beautiful and blessed day. And as always, during this year of St. Joseph, please pray for us. Thank you.
Dr. Ray Gurendi, making a commitment to the wives. When the show's on, put the radio under your husband's pillow. The percentage of yes dears will rise. The